Well, Brian Kelly is giving the Bears bulletin board material the night before the Texas Bowl. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another bonus episode of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube, which is powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you making it your first and second listen today and every day. Bonus episode right now because Brian Kelly is giving the Bears some bulletin board material on the eve of the Texas Bowl. Now, we already know that LSU probably doesn't really want to play in this game. We're talking about that in Tuesday's episode to get you ready for the Texas Bowl. But now, the night before, Brian Kelly, the one-time Southerner, is taking shots at Dave Aranda's defense. By the way, Brian also had a quote about going to something called the rodeo. Just remember that when you hear that introductory press conference. He's from Everett, Massachusetts. Okay. Everything about Brian Kelly is phony, except for the fact that he is a good football coach. And he was going to give some compliments, some praise to Dave Aranda in his press conference on Monday. But I think what he did instead was give a backhanded compliment that is going to fire up some of the Baylor players. And that's the way I'm reading into it. And it has been reported by Foster Nicholas of the Baylor Lariat. And boy, I mean, if you want someone who is boots on the ground everywhere for Baylor, Foster's your guy. He had this quote from Brian Kelly on Dave Aranda's defense. He's going to put his defense. Let me try that again. Brian Kelly says he's going to put his defenses together based upon his personnel. He had outstanding personnel at LSU where he could play a lot more aggressive man coverage. He doesn't quite have the same personnel here at Baylor. He went on to say, and he does a great job mixing things up. He changes things up from week to week and sets his defenses based on who he's playing. That's what really good coaches do, right? So there is some praise at the end of that. Makes me think a lot of Bill Belichick. That's what he did every week. He molded to whomever the opponent was. And I think we saw some of that actually from Dave Aranda in 2021. So he tries to throw some praise in there, but lest we forget the first thing he said. At LSU, he had the talent. At Baylor, he does not. He can't play the man coverage. Doesn't have the same personnel here at Baylor. Yeah, that is bulletin board material. That is a shot there. It certainly is. Because, of course, one of the other big storylines of this game is that LSU has a bunch of opt-outs. But the SEC fans will tell you, maybe they're right in this, by the way, that LSU, being a powerhouse in the SEC, has great depth and that their backups can be better than some of Baylor's starters. I think they truly believe that. And not just LSU and their fans, but I think there are fans of the SEC that believe that. And again, read the patches on these uniforms rather than watch the game tape and see these teams play. But yeah, maybe Baylor doesn't have the talent. Maybe they just shouldn't even take the field at all against LSU. That's why Dave was so great with the Tigers. He had the talent. Now what? It's not like they won 6 straight games or anything. It's not like they're coming into this bowl game as one of the hottest teams in the country. No, they don't have the talent. Well, if Baylor doesn't have the talent, then I would question whether LSU in 2024 has the talent. Because he's focusing on pass defense there and the Baylor secondary, which, of course, we all know it's not been great this year. It's been better the last couple of games, but I wouldn't say this is one of the best secondaries that Baylor's ever had, one of the best pass defenses they've ever had. But you look at the side-by-side comparison in the pass defense statistics between LSU and Baylor, and it's really not that much different at all. Both teams, they see about the same amount of passes, about 50% per game. They're in the top 60 in that category. This is all coming from teamrankings.com, which is great college football stats if you want to look up how these teams match up. The opposing team's completion percentage, with two teams that, get passed against about the same time. Baylor's 59% against. LSU is 60. So already, does LSU just not have that talent this year? That's interesting because they're losing talent going into this game. Baylor is not. Same amount of passes against, basically identical yards per pass against, and LSU gives up a higher completion percentage than Baylor does. But okay, that's a very slim margin. That's really too close to call. Okay. They both have the same amount of pass percentage against in terms of how many of the other teams' plays are passing against you. Same yards per pass, same passes per game, just the counting stat. Passing yards per game. Once again, we look at 240 against for Baylor. LSU, it's 211. So maybe, okay, they're pretty good there. Well, when I'm thinking about man defense, I'm thinking about guys who can make plays on the ball. That's what we talk about when we say aggressive man defense. If you have playmakers, ball hawkers back there, that's what makes a good man defense. So why don't we then look at the percentage of opponents' interceptions thrown? How often are they going to throw a pick against these teams? LSU, only 1.6%. That's 117th out of what? 133 teams in FBS? 117th. Baylor, on the other hand, 3.5%. Number 25 in America. So which is the man defense that you should be taking shots at, Brian? If Baylor's isn't good enough, then what does that mean about your defense? Because what really matters in man defense and any defense and matters about any facet of the game when it comes to football is who has the ball. And Baylor, for all their struggles for a ton of this year, they take the ball away better than your team. So I would probably be wary about which defense you're calling out here. And you try to throw a backhanded compliment at the end there, but that's classic Brian Kelly. That is straight out of the Brian Kelly playbook. The man left disaster in his wake at every stop he's been at. And now he's going to call out Dave Aranda. And look, Dave's not going to say anything about this. Of course not. Brian Kelly, of course, waited till the last press conference before the game to say this, even though he's had a mic in his face almost every day of the last week and a half, save maybe Christmas Day. He's going to wait till the very final press conference before the Texas Bowl to drop this on America. And Dave's not going to say anything about it. Of course not. But if you don't think those Baylor Bears are going to see that and probably print it out and literally pin it up in the bulletin board in the locker room, you've got another thing coming. Because this team has felt the disrespect all year long. And that's offense, defense, special teams, all of them. How often does a team go on a 6-game winning streak and not get ranked once? They know what they're up against. They know they're facing an SEC team and that the nation's going to be watching. We all have the day off. It's going to be middle of the afternoon, prime time for sitting on the couch, vegging out, watching good college football. They know they're going to have the eyes of the nation upon them and that this is their chance to earn respect. We heard Aranda talk about it just a few weeks ago when we were first previewing this game. So this damn well better be bulletin board material for Baylor because their defensive backfield's been getting better the last few weeks. And then, by the way, they get dealt a big blow. Corey Gordon is out in the transfer portal. The team's leader, or tied for lead, in interceptions this year. But you've got some veteran guys back there, and you've got some young and pretty talented guys. You've got guys coming back into this game, coming back from injury. Make no mistake, this is going to be on their mind when their heads hit the pillow tonight. They won't ever tell you. Dave Aranda's not going to tell you. Probably maybe doesn't even want them to have that, but they are going to see that. And they're going to say, oh, you don't think we can play? You don't think we can play man defense downfield? We'll show you. It's up to Baylor to really make this into a huge motivating factor. Because, oh, by the way, as we've talked about plenty in this buildup, LSU cannot run the football. Can't do it. They've tried all season long. They can't help it. They suck at it. They couldn't do it with their regular offensive line in there and their regular tight ends in there. They don't have that in this game. They are depleted at tackle and at tight end. A makeshift offensive line. You think they're going to run the football in this game? Doubt it. Let's see if Baylor drops 8 or if they go aggressive press man. But they're going to show you that they can certainly play man defense one-on-one without 3 of the top 4 pass catchers for LSU out there for the Tigers. It's up to Baylor to really turn this into a positive by making this into bulletin board material. Also, the Bears were not content in just getting ready for this game. They continue to add through the transfer portal, and they just added maybe their biggest need of all. We'll tell you about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let me ask you this. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about, that you're paying for twice? Because it really happened to me, okay? A few subscriptions I didn't realize I was still paying for, stuff that was completely useless to me, but they were taking my money. But with Rocket Money, it's like having a personal assistant for me, okay? Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills, increase your savings, and even helps you set your goals for 2025. They have over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving you, the next member, up to $740 a year when using all of the premium features. For me, it was that subscription tracker. Okay, I'm telling you, I was paying for stuff I hadn't used in a year. I was just hemorrhaging money with it. I was paying for a couple of things twice, and I've used it to cancel those services and saving me some money. Plus, with that goals feature, guys, we're all going into resolutions this week for 2025. What is more important than a financial resolution? Rocket Money is going to keep you on track. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/LOCKEDON today. Yeah, the Bears are not just preparing for LSU as they take the field on Tuesday against the Tigers, Tuesday afternoon. But they're still working. This is college football in 2024. They are still working the portal and trying to get guys in here into this program. And in fact, Foster Nicholas of the Baylor Lariat, who had the quote from Brian Kelly, also had from Dave's presser right after noon today. It was 12:15. He was asked, are you still trying to work the portal a little bit? He says, yep, we're always doing that. In fact, we could have something any minute now. Well, 2 hours later, the Bears got the commitment. And you could argue it's one of the most important, if not the most important, of this window. And that is Amarion Winston, who is coming in from Oregon, listed as a linebacker, but more of an edge rusher. And here's a guy who played every game this season for the #1 team in the country, a team that could well win the national championship. Winston fills a huge hole that Baylor has, and they've had for the last couple of years, and that's pass rush. I've talked about it on this pod a few times. They have not had a legit pass rush in a couple years now, really since 2021. And we thought they had some dudes, but it never quite came together. I'm talking about guys like, TJ Franklin and Cole Maxwell and Jackson Player and, Gabe Hall up to this year with Garmin Randolph and Steve Linton. And they've had some moments, each of them, and as a team, but they have not had a legit pass rush for 3 years now, since that 21 Sugar Bowl and Big 12 winning season. Amarion Winston could really, really help the Bears in that category. He's a guy who was recruited by Matt Powledge at Oregon. He, again, played every game this year. Does he have the numbers? No, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's not like he had 5 sacks or 2 sacks or 1 sack. But here's a guy who's seeing the field a lot for an almost wire-to-wire #1 team in the nation in the Oregon Ducks, and one that could well be marching towards a national championship as we speak right now. So for as excited as we were to pull the defensive coordinator from the national champions almost 5 years ago now, and Dave Aranda, should we be excited about bringing in a big-time edge rusher from the national champions elect? I think we should be. I really think we should be. And I don't know how much this will affect Oregon in this short term, but this was a guy who was highlighting their 2022 recruiting class. Like, he was probably the best prospect in this class. He's an Oregonian as well. He's from Portland. So it's not like, you were really high on this kid out of Flower Mound 3 years ago. He wants to come back and be closer to home. Not the case. Amarion Vincent is coming to Baylor because he sees a chance to play and to star and wants to play under Dave Aranda and Matt Powledge. Well, I didn't even know Matt Powledge was going to last through the coaching cycle here. And now he's bringing guys in. He's helping bringing guys in. Jamar Chaney, Keenan Hall, all these guys. They're Aaron Hunt, who of course had the dancing bear gift today. This is a big get for Baylor. And I'm sure there's some of you listening and watching, and rightfully so, or getting exhausted of me talking about the big gets that Baylor has gotten through this portal window, because I just went off yesterday about Walker White and how it's one of the most important portal gets Baylor's ever had. And that is true. That's the future, the long-term future in college football sense, the long-term future of this program. Amarion Vincent is a big part of the short-term future, with 2 years of eligibility remaining at least. He comes in and fills a huge need for Baylor. And while he doesn't have the stats at Oregon, he's another one of these guys that was a big-time recruit in high school. 4-star recruit. Of course, his portal rating goes down because he goes to a Big 12 team. That's just happened up and down the list on 247 for the Big 12 teams. But he was one of the best pass rushers in the country coming out of high school in 2022. He was the number 4 overall prospect in Oregon. He was a top 30 pass rushing prospect, and that's what he brings to the table. He brings an element, again, that Baylor has not had. And when you're looking at the portal, it's important to really differentiate what you're looking at. The portal is a crapshoot. Just like the NFL draft is a crapshoot, just like the NBA draft is a crapshoot, just like high school recruiting is a crapshoot. It's all crapshoot, okay? But what you're looking for, in the case of Baylor specifically, is you're going to get some plug-and-play starters from the transfer portal, guys who have done it before, they have proven it at the Division I level, and they're going to come in and they're going to fill holes for you right away, okay? That's guys like Phoenix Jackson, Kobe Prentice, Travion Barnes, guys they got at the beginning of the portal. And then there are those guys that you're picking up out of the portal because you had some interest in them in high school and they were big-time prospects out of high school. That's where you get guys like Walker White, 4-star, and Amarion Winston, 4-star. And that is how you kind of create a great recruiting class in the aggregate. In some cases, when you don't have a great high school recruiting class, you can make up for that in the transfer portal. What Baylor has right now is a top 25 national recruiting class and a top 25 transfer portal class, currently ranked number 22 in the nation by 247. And when you're an 8-4 team and you have plenty of skill positions coming back, a 22nd ranked transfer portal class could be as good as a top 10 class, because you already have a lot of the guys in place. We already talked about it. Tech having a great year in the portal, but they don't have those guys in place next year. That's why they needed to do that. Baylor's getting the best of all of it. And again, you're probably not going to hear me at the time talk about how bad a portal class is. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, I don't want to sound naive, but Baylor is coming off a tremendous season in 2024. They're bringing their coaching staff back, we think, knock on wood, hoping to bring their entire coaching staff back. They bring in a terrific recruiting class. They bring in an awesome portal class. Everything is coming up Baylor. And they still have holes that they need to fill. And they will in the spring. But they really lost one starter in the transfer portal, and they gained, by my count, 3 so far, at least, and that's maybe being conservative. 4, 2 linebackers, a nose tackle, a safety, probably a receiver, 5. And Amarion Winston could well work his way into a starting role. He's a guy who's played. He started every game this year for Oregon. What a class. And it's not over yet. Amarion Vincent, you are a Baylor Bear, and you can really, really help this team. And we could be getting back to a vintage Dave Aranda defense. The one that Brian Kelly lays awake at night, having nightmares about, could be coming back to Baylor. And boy, will that be a well-rounded team. I cannot wait to break this all down. But that comes after the Texas Bowl, which we'll have tomorrow. We will have a live post game tomorrow. So get involved in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about Brian Kelly and putting out some bulletin board material. Let me know what you think about the Bears adding a Marion Vincent, a big-time prospect, a guy who headlined a class from the University of Oregon who could well win the national championship this year, and a guy who played every game for the Ducks this year. Let me know down in the comments below or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor, for me at Real Cam Stewart. And be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube. And then they're going to be wherever you get your podcast. So we'll see you after the game live on YouTube after Baylor wins the Texas Bowl. We'll see you then on Locked On Baylor.